Good morning. We're going to pick up in Africa again, and the reference is about the increased problems with HIV. If you have young men who are no longer living around their home, they're living in just all male camps, and of course the exposure to prostitution is high, and this is a major way that the disease proliferates. And a lot of this can actually relate to the relationship that Africa has had to the world, and there are things that we can do about it. Now, it makes a lot of sense that if you have an area that is starving, that you want to send aid to it. And it also makes sense that in the United States, agribusiness will want to be sure that that aid comes from the United States. And this sounds just like a win-win situation. And it isn't 100% true in an emergency situation. If people are starving, then you want to get food to them, and you don't really worry where it comes from. But after that dies down, you have to take long-term plans that go along with the country, with the environment, and the social relations. And one of the big problems we've had with Africa, we tend to forget that people survive there, and they survive because of food that's grown locally. And when that doesn't work anymore, then the farmers get displaced from their land and wander around, and the whole society tends to break down. So we want to think in terms of what would help the farmer stay on the land, and in general, what is good for the entire social structure, because if the social structure breaks down, no amount of help, no amount of medical planning is going to do anything useful. So I'd just like to take a general look at our relationship with the continent, and particularly sub-Sahara Africa. We don't have an awful lot of influence in northern Africa, and perhaps the best thing for us is to just leave things alone there. But in southern Africa, we do have a lot of influence. We need to, as a cautionary tale, look back at Haiti. Haiti had this earthquake, and the world responded, and NGOs responded from all over the world, and people were there and helping out and doing a great job. The problem is that the area developed this habituation to being helped, so that everything was left to the NGOs, and now it's been several years since the earthquake, and the social structures have actually been worsened because of this learned dependence, and this can occur very rapidly. So it is something to look out for. You can help somebody in the short run, but injure them in the long run. So what would be some of the things we can do that would actually help the continent? Well, the very first thing and simplest thing we can do is work very hard on the climate change effects on the world, and particularly on Africa. There are large areas, particularly in the Sahel, below the Sahara, which are very, very sensitive to drought conditions. And changing the climate, causing an increase in droughts, can produce devastating damage there. So a very simplest thing is, hey, let's get serious about climate change. I'll give you a secret. Climate change is for real. It is happening, and it will get worse. And please don't. You can listen to the people who talk about, well, recently it hasn't done as much and so on and so forth. But it's a real truth, and it's a deadly truth. And one of the biggest things we're going to see from it is large areas of drought, large areas of hunger. This is not something to ignore. So what should we be doing for Africa, with Africa? When I say we, I mean the United States government and also the multiple NGOs. Well, the best lead is the work of Bill and Melinda Gates. What they're doing is right on. It's focusing on health. It's focusing on the health of young people because everything depends upon this. Your country can't function if everybody is sick, and population also zooms, and then the country cannot handle the population stress. So whatever Bill and Melinda are doing is great. It should be supported, and working through the NGOs is the major effort right now. I'd like to give an unexpected heads up to the ex-President Bush, who did an awful lot very quietly in Africa to improve things and does not get any credit for that. It was a good, quiet, thoughtful approach, multiple areas, and he really did a lot to keep things going. Okay, what else can we do for Africa? Well, one thing we can do is help it escape what I call the South Korea trap, where you have a situation of very, very vigorous education methods, but these are methods are selective methods. In other words, you go through the hurdle, and then you're given a big position with government or with industry, and then the pool of people who are useful gets smaller and smaller. So it would be nice if Africa were the first area to escape that trap, escape the substitution of selection for education. So one thing we can do is work on the recording methods of teaching, very intense, very clear into every area, so that the average person, after getting elementary education, can go on and become sophisticated in all these other areas. This would be something that would allow Africa to leapfrog over what is bringing down many advanced countries, and to actually widespread the use of intelligence, of expertise, and make this something that the whole community has, and not just a few who have managed to last through the most rigorous educations. I will see you next time.